Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to conversation number 27 of the Kristof Lewis podcast, where I have conversations with inspirational people. If you've been following me on Instagram at Kristof Lewis, you have seen that I am trying to make this not only a medium where I'm talking with my guests and having conversations with them, but I'd like to have conversations with you as well. So I'll be going live now and talking with you all as well. I'd really like to do that. I'd really like to be more interactive, like an interactive podcast. I think that would be absolutely badass. Today, my conversation is with the creator of Motivbrand, the CEO of iLegendz, and he happens to be a professional skateboarder. His name is Marco Chavez, and he is just an all-around awesome guy. I'm super stoked to have him here, and I hope you enjoy this conversation. Marco, thanks so much for being here with me today.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. So we've been talking for a few weeks, and we've really built up a great relationship because obviously a lot of the companies and work that you do deals with social media, and I'm on social media. So I know you've been helping me out with some things, and I'm already seeing it reciprocated within my own Instagram account. So it's been awesome to be able to work with you, and you're giving me. I don't want to say, I mean, you're giving me advice, but it's more than that. So that's why I was hesitant there. You've been giving me some great business tools to be able to become more interactive with the community around me, which is exactly what I want. And I know that's a lot what you're doing with some of your companies here, and they're different than each other. And even before we started recording, you had told me about something else that you just started doing. So you're like always doing some awesome stuff. I'd like to, for the listeners who don't know who you are, I mean, I said a little bit about the companies that you're doing, but can you talk about yourself first just a second? And for anybody that just doesn't know who you are, just maybe like a quick intro about who you are and how you kind of got into what you're doing now.
Yeah, no problem. So my name is Marco, for people who don't know me. What I am, I'm an entrepreneur, just plain and simple. Born and raised an entrepreneur. When I was little, I used to flip stuff all the time. I would, middle school and high school, I would buy Xboxes and sell them on Craigslist, eBay. So I was always trying to get my hands on something to buy and sell, and I kind of create value somewhere. And as I grew a little bit older, I started getting into different businesses, such as Motiv, my clothing brand. I actually got into this business because of my accident that happened to me when I was 15. So actually, when I was 15, I was ran over by a car. And I was skateboarding, doing what I love to do, and the doctors told me I would never walk again. So I was so motivated to get back on my skateboard, and that's where this brand kind of was birthed, right?
Yeah, that's amazing.
So I have this brand. I started when I was 18 and a half or so, and then I started iLegendz, which is the social media marketing agency where we met, and I started that about a year ago. And so that's pretty much where I'm at now. I'm 22. I'm always trying to find ways to create and show people what I create to see if I can provide value to people.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of stuff that I messed up with in the beginning. There's a lot of little businesses that I would start and then I didn't finish, and then I'll move on to the next business, find something that I was passionate about, and then this business and iLegendz were the two businesses that I just really stuck with me, and I carried it on and just continue going and grinding.
Yeah, man, That's amazing. It's funny how a lot of things that come up, obviously, I say this a little bit that I'm about to say pretty much every conversation because I like seeing what comes up organically. And you said, you had this accident when you were 15. And again, you're facing this massive resistance in your life, especially when a doctor tells you you're not going to be able to, do what you love anymore. And then out of the fire, out of the flames comes this new opportunity for you. And I think that's really cool how that happens. And just listening to that now, my immediate reaction is that you didn't wallow in self-pity and were oh man, the doctor says I'm not going to be able to walk anymore, so I'm just not going to try to walk or not going to try to do anything else. You didn't pity yourself. You're well, no, that's not happening. I love skateboarding and I love doing all this other stuff, so I'm going to go do it and I'm going to rehabilitate the best of my ability and I'm going to go do that, and then I'm going to, and then out comes Motivbrand and all this other stuff out of it, and it really teaches you some hard life lessons initially, but I think it really forged who you are today. I mean, you're really young, and to start that at 18, almost 19 years old, I think is great because, again, I know where I was at 18 or 19, and I was hardworking, but I had no direction at all, and I didn't start anything like that, so that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reason why I started Motive, because if I was able to overcome something like that, something as dramatic as doctors calling it a miracle, then I believe that, everybody can overcome their own obstacles to get what they want. So that's kind of like how I birthed the brand. I want people to stay motivated to accomplish their goals, because for me, it was all a mindset. And so I was like, I'm a skateboard, I'm going to do it. And it happened. And so I just want to tell people that, look, whatever you want, any goal, any dream that you want to accomplish, just stay motivated, because then it will happen as long as you don't quit, right? As long as you stay motivated until it happens, it's going to happen.
Yeah, it actually reminds me of something. So obviously, like, I dive deep into a lot of people's accounts, and I saw something that you had mentioned about what did you say? You said what you focus on grows. You said that, I think, in the last couple days or weeks or something like that, and it's very true. What you focus on grows. So if you spend time thinking, like you just said, you want to be motivated, you want to achieve something, you want to create something, and actually follow through on it. So you got to spend time on that, because if you spend time, like you said, like wallowing your self-pity and like thinking you're injured and you're going to stay injured forever, then more than likely that's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy, and that's what's going to happen. But if you're like, I'm not going to put up with that shit, and I'm going to go do something about it, and you focus your energy on that, like, good things happen. And obviously it's not like you just shift your mentality and good things automatically happen. I mean, there's going to continue to be hardships, and I'm sure it wasn't super easy. Like you said yourself, like, you did a lot of things that didn't work, and that's bound to happen when you're starting up, new companies and just trying new things in general, no matter what it is,
Yeah, for sure. And I also think don't take life too serious. When failure comes along, a lot of people get felt by it, right? They're like, damn, I failed, I'm not good. And that's kind of like the immediate reaction. But if you just keep going, like, there's failure is always a stepping stone to the next opportunity.
Yeah,
and so once you see it like that, then when it hits you, you're just like, okay, where's the next opportunity? What am I doing next? It's just life. Let's have fun. Let's just keep on going.
Yeah.
So I think with a different perspective on failure, then you can totally just make your way there.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, and I know anybody that subscribes to this channel, listens to more than a couple of these episodes, know that failure probably comes up every episode. And what's funny to me is what I was getting into is, like, as a child growing up, you see failure. I mean, I saw failure as such like a negative thing, and it was so scary, and you thought, not only did your failures mean you failed in that instance, but I literally felt like a failure as a human being. Like, even as a kid growing up, whether it was like, playing sports, like I loved playing soccer. So if I failed because I didn't, train hard enough, or I didn't do whatever, I didn't make the first team, or, whatever it was, then I literally thought of myself as a failure. And I even try to combat that feeling now, that urge to like be, have all this pity for myself. But because I practice this mentality, because you have to keep up on it, I'm able to combat that at least a little bit, and not, again, while
and it's normal. And it's normal, right? It's normal to feel like that when it happens.
It's totally normal. Yeah, we're human beings. We have emotions, and I think we should utilize those emotions. There's certain times when you need to be rational as best you can and try to execute. A lot of times as an entrepreneur, when you're doing things at your business or whatever you're doing, and sometimes when you have heated arguments with somebody, you want to try to be as rational as you can, as emotional as these decisions can be and these conversations can be, that help make you a better decision. But at the same time, like, emotion drives people. I know, like, here's a very recent example. I mean, I actually really like the show Shark Tank, and there was somebody on there, and she was like, she started crying a little bit, and I was like, well, ultimately I'd want somebody that was like a super rational, non-emotional person in business. But obviously she had gotten as far as she had gotten, doing that stuff, and she was crying because she was super emotional and passionate about what she was doing, and she, and I can respect that. So I think you just have to harness it, regardless of like who you are. Recognize who you are. If you're a very passionate person, emotional person, then at least I think it starts with recognizing it, and then being able to like direct it and know when to really fine tune it. And then if you're more rational, then probably kudos to you. So
I agree completely.
Yeah, man.
And it's all about the redirecting of the emotion, right? Once you feel the emotion of failing or feel the emotion of getting to a certain point, how do you direct it into the right place? And that's where motivation kind of comes along. And so if you direct it in the right place, then you're going to go places.
Yeah, man. And I know, like, another thing too, like, you're working long hours. I mean, obviously you're doing, like, you're literally, I feel like you're like juggling things, and it takes long hours. And I actually, when I went I went live this past week or last night about it. I was talking about that a lot. Like it takes, like, as well, like I have a day job and then I come home and I work on the podcast, and it takes me hours to like do stuff that looks like it wouldn't take hours because I'm doing everything myself. But you're juggling all these businesses, like I was saying, and you're doing everything that you want to do, and plus, you got to enjoy some free time too. And so you're working like 14 or 17 hours, and it's not easy. The days are long, and I think that's something like that people don't necessarily want to subscribe to initially. At least they think like, maybe I could put a couple hard hours into this a week and it's gonna like come to fruition. But I don't know. One thing that like I've always thought, especially when I was like training for like running or something, like for a race or something, or whatever it was, insert your variable here. But when I thought like, man, I'm tired, I'm going to stop running. Or maybe, I'm going to, in your instance, I don't know, like if you're skateboarding, like I don't want to go out there and practice this one trick. But I'm like, wow, somebody else is out there running right now that wants it more than me. Or somebody else is out there, man, that skateboard's slammed into their shins 100 times. Well, I'm going to have it slam in there another 100 times, and I'm going to like figure out, just how to flip that or whatever. I don't know. But like my thing that always worked for me, like I was always harder on myself. And I think my really close friends recognize that you might be your greatest critic. And I think that can be a good thing, so you can assess what's wrong. And I was always telling myself, man, if I stop running right now, I know there's that other guy that I want to race against. He's still running right now. He's running an extra mile. So I think you really have to be hard on yourself within certain reason. Like don't take it out of proportion. Don't blow it out of proportion. But you definitely have to be hard on yourself, because if you're not willing to like control and, like you said, direct yourself and work hard on what you need to work hard, who else is going to push you? Like, I'm sure somebody didn't come into your life and was like, this is exactly how you're going to do Motive, and this is exactly how you're going to go skateboard, and this is exactly how you're going to do iLegendz. Like, you had no idea, right? I mean, so obviously you have to take some initiative. You have to work those long hours, and you got to be tough on yourself if you want to make it work. You got to be consistent in that motivation, like you were saying. Yeah,
no, for sure. And I think that working long hours it's a part of the game. But you have to love what you do in order to stay in it, right? So a lot of people are like, I want that result. Maybe I can work a couple hours to get that result. Yeah. And that never works. You have to really do what you love to do. That way, within those 16 to 18 hours that you're working a day, you love every single hour of it. And eventually, the results, you love it just as much. And so that's probably the advice I'd give to everybody going out to start a podcast, start anything that they want to start that's aside from their job that they really want to do. Yeah. Make sure you love it. If you don't love it, then there's no point.
Yeah,
right?
I couldn't agree with you more. And I preach it. I like literally say it once a day to at least somebody. Like, you have to love what you do. Like, how could a sane person go work those long hours every day, day in and day out, more than likely 7 days a week, and like, if you don't like it, there's no way you're gonna be able to do that long term. You're gonna get either burnt out, or you're just going to be like, well, I don't enjoy this, so why the hell am I doing it? But if you do love it, then obviously you don't mind doing it.
Exactly. And that's why one of the pillars in iLegendz is passion. Yeah. It's passion, purpose, progress, because we're looking for people who have the passion, because we know they're not going to quit. If they love what they do, they're going to continue going with the right guidance, with the right resources. They're going to make it, such as yourself. So
I appreciate it.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, man, it's tough, and I can, you said you started iLegendz relatively, it's about a year or so, and this has been 6 months, so I know as much as you or anybody else starting something new that it's super tough, and we've had a lot of these discussions already, and I think it's no secret that I don't make any money off this whatsoever, and I'm 100% fine with that. Down the road, if that came into fruition, that's obviously fine. That's part of the reason why I'm working my ass off, because I'd rather, make money doing this, what I more enjoy, than anything right now. And I know I will continue to enjoy it, because what's not to love when you talk to other people like yourself, and you, the guests, are setting great examples, and hopefully myself, for people that are listening and watching as well. So why not find something you're willing to do, and you're not going to get paid for it at first? I mean, if you do, God, awesome for you. But I think even like as you start, if you're an entrepreneur and you're starting a business, like I know certain people that have started a business and, they have to either take out loans or whatever, and they go, they accumulate a little debt in first, and even though the business may be making money, they're paying off debt, and they don't, go green for months down the road. So it's really tough, and you have to be willing to take risks, and you have to be willing to step back a few steps before you're able to run forward. It's tough.
Yeah,
super tough. For real. But you gotta I think more than anything or more than anyone. I mean, you've been doing it for almost 4 years. It sounds, or maybe more, at least that. And you gotta stick with it. And here you are. You're a living, breathing example of that. You just gotta stick with it, and you'll be all right. I mean, not everything works out. You said yourself, but it eventually does work out. And if the first thing doesn't work out, or the second thing doesn't work out, or the third thing works, it's going to work.
Yeah, they say it a lot. I mean, I think Gary Vaynerchuk says fail forward. Mm-hmm. Like, it fail as fast as you can, because as soon as you fail, the faster you get to success. So a lot of people preach that.
Like fail hard. Fail fast and fail hard. No, it reminds me of like fail fast and fail hard,
Oh, yeah, exactly. So. Yeah. Even though people are just like, what? Why would I fail? Like, why would I want to do that? It's going to happen. Like, even if you don't want to do it, it's going to happen.
Yeah, I think it aligns with, like, you're not implicitly trying to like go out and fail just so you can like get to success. For anybody that's listening and doesn't understand that, it just means like get started now, get after it really fast and hard, and just go after what you want, and then come out guns blazing. And then if you do fail, then so be it. Then you'll learn your failures quicker than if you had like been sluggish and maybe never started what you wanted. So just get after it, right off the starting blocks.
I'm glad you elaborated on that. So true, so true. Failing, exactly when we said fail forward, when I said fail forward, it just means a lot of people procrastinate because they think they have to be the best before they start. They think they have to know everything. You don't have to know everything. You just have to do it, right? You just have to do it, and you'll learn as you go. So yeah, I'm glad you elaborated on it. Don't go out there and try to fail. Just like, look, I'm selling this for $30. I bought it for $40. Don't try to fail. Like, really go out there and try to do it, but just know that it's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And then speaking of living, breathing examples, for anybody that's ever seen any of these conversations knows that I'm a shining example of failure in a sense of just getting started. Because, I mean, anybody listening right now, and maybe this is the first time they're listening or they've only watched a few episodes, like, do yourself a favor, have a good laugh, and like go back and like. And this is nothing against the guests are awesome and the conversation's great, but I'm just saying like the way things are structured and put together, like if you go through and you've actually watched like 26 episodes, if you watch like 5 minutes of every single one, or this is number 27, you can see a huge amount of change, little changes along the way. And then I would have never gotten from like conversation number 1 to conversation 27 and had it structured as I do now. But if you see a little bit through every single conversation, you see like a little tweak, a little tweak, and I think that's what life is about. I think that's what entrepreneurship is about, and anything that you want to be better at is about, because you're just you have a goal, like a long-term goal, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have to go down the path that you think is right for you. You like get started, you get moving, and then like failure happens and like hurdles happen, and you jump over this hurdle, you go across, or you shift this way. Like, you have to call audibles along the way. I don't think it's ever like the initial path that someone sets out for is probably not the path that they actually take in pursuit of their happiness and in pursuit of their success.
No, true, totally agree. And that's why the third level is progression, right? You gotta always be having some level of progress, whether it's small or big. I just read a book called The One Thing, and it was talking about having a big goal, like you said, a big goal, but you take small increments. Like, you focus on the small things every single day, and eventually you kind of like meet up to your end results goal. So
absolutely. That's another one. It's funny. I was talking to Chris Harder last conversation, and he brought up another book. I'm going to bring it here for anybody on YouTube, but this is it right here, The One Thing.
Oh, there you go.
By Gary Keller. So I also highly recommend that too. And once again, we will throw it in the summary so anybody can check out that book. A lot of good book recommendations come out of here, so I appreciate you doing that. Do you know, so what made you like want to start these companies? I know you said you had like an injury when you were 15 that led into Motivbrand about 2 or 3.5 years later, but between that time, obviously, you're I don't know, like how has your mind evolved to like I actually want to be an entrepreneur? And I know you started off, you know, in the introduction, like, you know, I was selling things and I was always trying to make a buck, and I think that's awesome to have that like mindset. So obviously, like to me, it sounds like you always had that mindset from like a kid, and you always were kind of subjected to probably be an entrepreneur in that sense. So do you think that's how you got into it, at least?
Yeah, I mean, so always trying to make a buck. I mean, that was with me from the start. My dad was a huge sales guy, so I think I kind of just inherited it from him.
Sure.
But between the ages of 15 and 18, I was having huge mental battles because I just came out of this accident.
Yeah.
I don't know what to think. There was just a lot of, you know, getting to walk again was a huge thing in my life.
Yeah.
So like it kind of impacted my mind. So I got into a lot of meditation. Like I was meditating like 4 or 5 hours a day. There was nothing. I mean, I was going to school. There was nothing else like I wanted to do. I'd leave school and just meditate because I was like watching YouTube videos and I was just questioning everything. Like I just started questioning, why does the universe work? Why do people buy this? Why, like, just why everything? Like I was searching why on YouTube with anything I could think of, and then I would just kind of just question and meditate a lot. And then it hit me, like that's kind of like how motive kind of hit me as well. Like this is like impact that I need to leave for the world. So it was more than just making a quick buck. It was how can I make a quick buck, but also impact other people and help other people be their best selves, because I'm working towards my best self. And so whatever I can do that can do the same for others, I just started kind of endeavoring into those ventures. And that's where motive and that's where iLegendz were birthed, from that kind of mindset, I would say.
No, that's amazing, and I think it's great. It drives home another point that I've heard from multiple guests, is that you can better yourself while helping better other people, right? And then specifically, there's nothing wrong with making money while you're helping other people. I mean that's I mean, I think somebody that would say that that's not a priority for them or that's not a goal for them, I think maybe lying to themselves. I mean, a lot of people would probably argue, you know, money's not important to me or whatever, but, you know, you got to pay bills and you want to take care of your family, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, I love to travel. Yeah. I need money to travel. So that's like one of my huge, one of the huge things that's really pushes me to do what I do and, you know, work as hard as I do, is because I like to travel. So, you know,
it goes hand in hand. It goes hand in hand, money and impacting people. The more money you have, the more impact you can have on people.
I was literally going to say that. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like, how are you, I mean, you can help people without money, but for Christ's sake, like, yeah, I'm not getting paid for this podcast, but at the same time, I've literally spent hundreds, if not thousands of dollars of like gear and like getting stuff together, and it's not cheap, and you need some money at least to help people. So I just want to, I've seen it portrayed as you know, negatively in the past, and I would like to beat it into people's heads that it's not necessarily a bad thing at all. And yeah, money can be used negatively, but there's almost nothing that can't be used negatively. It's like, it's a tool, and a tool is like any other tool. Money is a tool. It's how you use it. Like you can have a shovel, you can dig a hole with a shovel, right? But you can also bash somebody over the head with a shovel. So like, that's really bad. So like, it's a tool. These are just tools. It's based on the individual. It's based on the person, and use the tool as you see fit and as best as you can, and help yourself and help other people, because you know you sure as shit got to help yourself first. Yeah, no,
I couldn't say it better myself. It's a tool. It amplifies whatever energy that you have. If it's a bad person making a lot of money, it's just going to be more bad, right?
Exactly.
But if it's a good person making a lot of money, you're going to do a lot more good.
Exactly. So, and I love what you said earlier when you were talking about, you know, you did all the the meditation. And I know meditation doesn't work for everybody, but for the people that do it, that I've talked to in the past, it worked for them so well, and it sounds like it worked really well for you. So if anybody's never done it, I would suggest they try it. I'm hesitating because I'm thinking about the app right here, but I had a good friend, Sean, suggest one to me. I'm going to suggest it to everybody listening now. I believe it was called, bear with me, Headspace.
Yeah, so, I knew you were going to say it too.
Yeah, I know. You should have chimed in. But Headspace, my good friend Sean Bieshke, if he's listening, hey, he suggested that to me, and I do it. I don't do it as often as I should now, but I do really like it, and it's cool. It's guided, and then there's obviously tons of forums. I'm sure you could speak better about it as well. But something to just like help align yourself, relax, and you know, I would use it sometimes to think about my day as well, and what I'm really trying to do. And like, you even asked yourself questions like essentially like, why am I here? Like, why is the world the way the world is? And you said you were questioning everything, and I love that. Like, I love it. I think you should have a questioning attitude, like at your job. Like, if somebody says to do something and you're like, well, I don't think that sounds right, well, question it. Like, don't be afraid to speak up. And then even on such a greater scope, like cosmically, like, these are great questions to ask. And I think we don't have progression within ourselves or in society if we don't have groups of individuals. Well, I think that might have been oxymoron, groups of individuals, but if we don't have masses of individuals asking these questions about themselves and about larger scope things. So it's beautiful that you were asking those questions of yourself and of the world around you, and look where it led you. I mean, that's a great example.
Yeah, no, for sure. Questions. I mean, I was just curious, right? Like, I was just curious to know. Like,
I think you have to be.
Know, right?
Yeah, you have to be curious. You have to be, because like, I think if you had no curiosity, I mean, curiosity has led society again to so many places. And I think the fact that you were curious it was probably a huge indicator, or not a huge indicator, but like a huge, you talk about pillar, but one of the pillars for your success. I think something that you were stood on, questioning everything, being curious, and then of course being passionate. And I think when you stand all those pillars up, of course, you have a great foundation to build upon and spring forward.
No, really, I think Einstein talked a lot about it, about being curious.
Okay.
I forgot the quote. I was trying to think about the quote. It's at the tip of my tongue. But he talks about being curious and how that sparks like knowledge, how that sparks enlightenment. And I think meditation like also kind of helped me with my curiosity. And for people who don't meditate or who hasn't worked for them, I think it's just the fact that they didn't do it enough or long enough. A lot of people, like my mom, I've been trying to get my mom to meditate for so long, my family around me. But like what I did was I went on YouTube and I looked up guided meditations, and all you gotta do is focus on listening to them. So it's a science. It's like working out, right? Sure. Like if you were to go back to the 50s and you said, I'm gonna go jogging, I'm gonna go running, you're gonna be like, from who? Who are you running from, right? Because they didn't know. Yeah. And so now a lot of like it's starting to become more mainstream meditation, like the science behind it. We just have a lot of thoughts in our head, and we kind of have to like quiet them to hear and focus on what's correct to focus on, right? Because I mean, we watch TV, we look at the news. I mean, people look at a whole bunch of things that fill their mind up with stuff that doesn't necessarily need to be there. And meditation for me is kind of filtering out what to focus on, filtering out what's the good thing that I need to focus on today, positively, what am I grateful for, like anything that would kind of just push me in my momentum into the right place, kind of align myself, like you said, and when we dive deeper into alignment, kind of like chakras and stuff like that, some people don't believe that, but just energy points in our body that I'm a big fan on energy. Like I feel like that when I was curious, asking a whole bunch of questions, like how does the universe work? I was going into like atoms and like what we're made of, and we're like actually made up all these atoms. We're made up of energy just moving. Like this table right here is just energy that's moving at a fast pace. This cup that I'm drinking water from is energy. Everything's energy, and that's where Einstein came up. E equals mc squared. Energy equals everything. So that like blew my mind. I was like, what? Everything seems different than what it is. We're actually made up of, it's crazy, we're made up of, with the atoms that are in our body are mostly air. It's mostly empty space. Yeah. And so if we were to condense, if it was a scenario where you're able to condense every single atom of every person on Earth and squeeze it together, you would get as big as a grain of sand out of all those atoms.
Doesn't even make sense.
If you take out all the empty space.
I mean, it makes sense, but I think when you think about that, it's crazy. And I've heard similar comparisons, and I've completely forgot it, or I don't think I've heard that one, but it's mind blowing. It's absolutely mind blowing if you just shift your perspective. Sometimes I think you see the world in a whole new light, and just you giving that example of people and the amount of space that is between the atoms and everything that is the buildup of the universe is. If you just think about things different sometimes, that's all you need maybe to just start something. I don't know if you've ever like had a problem that you can't figure out, or me, I'm trying to develop my own company and it's difficult. So sometimes I sit back, I write a lot of things down. I take like a day off from thinking about it literally, or, you know, sleep on it essentially. And I come back and I try to approach it from a different perspective, ask myself the right questions, because I can't answer these questions if I don't ask the right questions of myself, of what, you know, people would want to see and hear. So it's tough, but I think that breaks up a good point I want to drive home, is just shift your perspective sometimes. You know, if you can't think of what to do or how to do, just think about it maybe in a different perspective, and I think that really might help you. For sure.
Yeah, no, I think, and then you also sleeping on it and taking a day off, I think it's huge. A lot of people think that they have to drill on what they want 24/7, and I'm big on like the law of attraction and all the laws of like the universe, right? And the law of attraction only works with the law of detachment. So you attract what you want. You're like, I want this goal. I want, let's say, $1 million, right? I want $1 million. I want $1 million. I want $1 million. And you're doing everything to work towards $1 million, but you're never going to get there if you can't detach from it. Like you have to be like, okay, I want $1 million. This is what I'm going to do. Now I'm just going to not focus on it. Now I'm just going to go over here and do something else. Let the universe, let the energy like come back to me. And you don't have to do that for months, right? You do it for a couple of days, but it really does work. That's what I've seen that works for me.
Sure.
I feel like when I'm stuck on something and I just keep grinding, and my gears keep turning, and I still can't solve it, I lay back. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna focus on something else, and then the answers just come up into my head. Like, oh, found it. I solved it. Like that's what I had to do, and it was like I'm doing something. I was doing something completely different when I found the answer for something I was struggling with yesterday.
No, it's a phenomenal point that you've made there, and no matter what job I've had in the past or what problem I've had, I think that's something that's worked for me as well, as stepping back. And I think in the heat of the moment, like you don't want to stop because maybe you're thinking you're gonna have like immediate failure because you haven't solved your problem or you haven't whatever, right? But sometimes you need to relax. Like I always talk about, like I think the gym is a good example, at least works for me. Like if you're going hard all the time, you know, your body needs to heal as well. Like people talk about, you know, your body needs sleep as well. Your body needs time to recover. So if you're going in there constantly just crushing your body and it never has time to heal, like you're going to eventually be degrading your body. So I think when you're crunching and your mind is just working so hard on trying to figure out a problem and you can't figure it out, like give your mind a break and then you know, take some time off, let it rebuild, clear your thoughts, clear your head, and then approach it with it. Again, maybe it goes back to maybe a new perspective or just, you know, something like that. But I think time off is very important. You need to, you know, like people joke about like, I'm going to take, not even a joke, but like sometimes it's good to like get away, like, you know, throw your phone down for like literally a whole weekend and go like hiking with, you know, with your friends or with your spouse or something, and just like disattach from everything for a while and then come back new and just think about things like that, you know, with a clean plate. I think that's very important to be able to do that as well. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, no, for sure. That was a perfect example with the gym, right? Like you gain more when you're resting from working out. That's when your muscles are actually growing. So like that's a perfect example of what also the mind, you know, you gotta give your mind a rest as well and let it grow.
I think so.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
And I definitely believe you should leave your phone, like put your phone away for a while and then go out and do stuff. I can't do a whole weekend just because if I go back to my phone, there's gonna be fires I have to put out. Like I'd probably lose a lot of money too. So like I would do it when I can delegate certain tasks for like the weekend. Maybe, but not like every single weekend. I would be able to like go out and just do something completely like out of business and stuff like that. So not there yet.
Yeah,
maybe one day.
Yeah, well, you have to find what works for you too. And I think, you know, like obviously you do a lot of media managing, and that requires a phone, right? So I think again, it speaks towards that it doesnking work for you. It may not, you know, work for somebody else, and you have to figure out what works for you. So everything's approached differently. We're talking about like shifting perspectives, and we're talking about like taking mental breaks and physical breaks, and we're talking about meditation was another thing. Like you said, you know, things worked for you, it may not have worked for your family. So everything's different for everyone. And I, you know, like you were saying, you know, people have to maybe not try it long enough. And I think I probably didn't do meditation consistently enough initially, and that's probably why I didn't stay with it.
Yeah, no, for like me, like the first 30 days of meditating, I didn't feel a damn thing. Like I was doing it for 30 days. I didn't feel anything different. It was after 30 days of listening to the same video where I would actually feel like in my body, something different. I was listening to the first meditational video was a healing light meditation, because at the time I was, injured, right? My back was hurting. I was taking painkillers, which I did not want to take, right? They were giving me painkillers, have like metal in my back, have plates in the front. So I went towards meditation to see how I could heal myself. And so I did it consistently for like 30 days, every single day for hours on end. And after 30 days, it was like around 30 days, something like miraculous happened when I would listen to that video. Like I would feel my body kind of just release pain. And I was like, wow, I'm not in pain when I meditate. That's why I was doing it for 4 hours a day, because those 4 hours I wasn't in pain.
That makes sense.
So
yeah, that's crazy.
And so for that time when I wasn't in pain, not only I was doing it for my body, but I didn't realize how much it was affecting my mind. Yeah. My mind was getting all this good positive energy, good thoughts, and yeah, I just meditation, man. It's hard. It's like working out. Like if you don't see other people with the results of working out, you're not going to do it. You're not going to just hit the gym and break your muscles and hurt yourself if you don't know that there's results at the end of it. Yeah. After like 30, 60 a year, right? Yeah. So I think it's the same thing with working out.
Yeah, I think it's a good example really for anything. I mean, we've talked about the gym too, but I know about like, I've listened to people talk about certain diets like, and whatever, and this doesn't mean I'm an advocate of anything I'm about to say, but like keto or whatever, like a lot of people say like you can't do keto for like 20 or 30 days and then expect to see immediate results, or if you're doing intermittent fasting or whatever. And again, I'm just thinking of random stuff. But you need to do it for like months before you start seeing and it might be different for intermittent fasting, but I know keto specifically, it takes a while to actually sit in. So again, I think it goes back to not seeking immediate results and stuff like on businesses or projects, this podcast or whatever. So if it works for diet and it works for working out, like you can't expect to go to the gym if you've never worked out before and then like go do some bicep curls and then have like 18-inch arms. You can't go. You never ran before, so you can't just go run like 10 miles at like a 7-minute pace. And I mean, I don't know, maybe there's some freaks out there, but nobody that I know personally. So you have to be able to start small, but just get started, right? So just go walk around the block if you're trying to run, and then next time, start jogging, and then, just build up and then just get started. And then like you said, an important thing you said was to at least try to get a little bit of progress each day or each time you work on something, hopefully each day, and then like in a week and then in a month and then especially in a year or a couple of years. Can you believe how far you've gone there? I mean, think about where you were 8 years ago when you had your injury, and then or 6 years ago, 8 years ago, and think about how far you are now. And that's not something you can, when you're injured and you're sitting there and you don't know about meditation or anything, or obviously you don't know what's to come in your life. It can be very a scary place to be, but you just know, like, I'm going to do everything I can in this moment, and I'm going to learn a little bit more. I'm going to meditate more in your case, and I'm going to rehabilitate, and then you do a little bit every day, and then here you are, flash forward to where you are now, and great things have become of all of those little small things lined up.
No, for real, yeah. And this is just speaking about like myself and my experience. I believe in God. I believe like in the power of the universe. When I was meditating, it kind of guided me in a way. It was like, showed me that just do a little level of progression every day, you'll get there. Like I was being guided by this force, by God, by the universe, whatever you want to call it. But I was guided every day to do a certain thing. And it wasn't like specific, like, do research LLC, how you're going to do a legal thing, right? It was just progression. Yeah. How am I going to progress every day, little by little? And it added up. And so I'm kind of I feel blessed to just be able to find that. I think if it wasn't for meditation, I might not even be doing the stuff that I'm doing now. Yeah. Just because it kind of tilted me in that direction.
Yeah, and you never know, but you do know you are where you are now, and that's what you did do. So I would continue doing what you're doing now, and then obviously you're going to continue to have that mindset. So you're going to continue to build on now, and then in another 8 years, God knows where you'll be there, and I think that'll be very great, because obviously you're going to continue to build on this as well. And speaking of building on things, and we were talking like even before we started recording, you were telling me about something new you were doing, and I'd actually love to share that with all the listeners and viewers as well, because I think it shows another thing that you can do. Like obviously I want to show a multitude of things here with this podcast. I want to show people that they can do any career, anything they want, and I want to show like a bunch of different people. And you are very unique than other people I've talked to. Everybody has their own uniqueness, but I don't think I've talked to anybody like you, at least yet. So I think what we talked about was also important. On top of like, I've had entrepreneurs, and it's very important. I think it's very great to be able to go out and do what you want, because sometimes if you don't see what you want to do around you, create it. And that's why I love the entrepreneurial mindset, and that's why I'm always like seeking to talk to people like that. So I love it. But on top of that, you're doing this other stuff that I was like, man, it sounds like anybody, because maybe not, entrepreneurship's not for everybody, and that's fine. However, like the stuff you were talking about that you're about to get into is, I think, stuff that pretty much anybody can do with any kind of products or whatever they're doing.
Yeah. No, yeah, for real. I mean, it's just me having fun, right? Like the stuff we were talking about is called the Flippin' Shit Show. I'm giving you guys like the insider scoop. Nobody else knows about this. It's about to come out within about 7 days or so. And basically it's just me going out there, going to garage sales, going to the swap meet, anywhere I could find that I can buy and sell online, sell on eBay, sell on Facebook Marketplace, sell on Craigslist. Use all these digital platforms to sell things I buy in person and record the whole thing and show people that if you want to start a business or if you want to make a little bit of extra money, like it's there, you can do it. And this whole idea actually sparked from a DM that I got on Instagram saying, I want to start this business. I don't have startup capital. Can you help me? And I was like, I like your business idea, but let me do you something better than just giving you the fish. Let me teach you how to fish. So I went out there for the first day. That same day I got the DM, I went out and I bought you're going to see it in the first episode too. I bought a vest, a bulletproof vest. And I bought it, and I literally had $7 or $5 to $7. And I bought it for that, and I went on eBay and I sold it for $80. And so just right there, you can get a website, you can get a logo created, right? Yeah. So like just from one day of you going out and hustling just a little bit through this, Gary Vee talks about it a lot too. He's a big fan of going out to garage sales and flipping, and he has companies that have hundreds of millions of dollars, but he does that because he finds time to do stuff that's, for the audience, and it's a little fun too.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the show that I'm building right now.
I think it's incredible. And this one, I'm pretty sure this conversation, it's going to air on the 8th of October. As hopefully, I'm sure somebody that's listening to this is like, oh, that's today. Well, then I got it right, so that's good. But so I think your show may come out before that then.
Yeah, probably.
So, okay. Yeah. Well, either way, it'll be out, so you should definitely check it out because I'm actually pretty interested to see that. I think that's cool, and I think that's like I was talking about. Again, I was telling you about my friend Sam, who's conversation number 3, who is another entrepreneur. And he has an amazing story. Like he quit his job and he started Dogtown, which is a wildly successful doggy daycare, and now he's even starting another company. So you guys have a lot of similarities, and he does a lot of flipping on the side as well, and I get a kick out of it because it's so funny, like how like what he can find. Like it's like you guys have different eyes. You're like you got the bulletproof vest for $7, and then you sold it for like 80 somewhere else, and he buys couches, and the way he was describing things to me just cracks me up. And you guys just have, I think a lot of people just wouldn't see that, and they wouldn't see those opportunities. So that's why I'm glad you like brought it up, and like, well, maybe it's like that person you were talking to, on the direct messages were like, well, I don't have money. And you're like, well, you just created money right there out of like not that much work, and now you, like you said, you have enough money to build some kind of website or do things. So if you do that, and that's just once, if you go do that repeatedly, you do that like a few days a week, or you do it for more hours a day, then man, you could have maybe that's your business. Like people, you can do that on the side pretty easy,
Yeah, definitely. I think you can make a good $1,000. Like if you would go every weekend to buy stuff and flip, I think you can make a good $1,000 on the side.
Yeah, and anybody can do that, and that's like a perfect example. And I'm super stoked you brought it up because that's a perfect example. Like somebody's like, well, I don't know what I can do. Well, I think most everybody at this point has access to the internet. You have it on your phone, on your desktop, and you can easily do that stuff. And you don't need a truck. You can like a bulletproof vest fits in your seat next to you. Like there's so many things that you can do that don't require a lot of other tools. And I think you just have to go out there and make it happen. And I think that's super exciting.
I'm excited.
That's cool. So is that going to be, you recorded one episode. Are you guys going to continue to, smash through and do a whole season, and then you just, okay.
So today I recorded the second episode.
Okay.
So the first episode is going to come out. I'm making sure I have a couple episodes to line up. Today, I'll tell you, since by the time you air it, it's probably going to come out. I bought a here. Let me show you. Let's see if this flips. So this is Rupert, right, from Family Guy. I went to a garage sale with my friend, and we saw this, and I looked it up online, and it's one of those SDCC exclusives. So like you have to go to Comic-Con to buy it. I looked online, and it sold on eBay. Like 5 of them sold for $40. And I was like, okay, and I bought it for $20. So I'm gonna see if I can double my money real quick on this bear. I just put it up online today, so.
It's so funny.
I'll let you guys know on the episode how it goes.
You started challenging yourself. Yeah, I think that's really cool. And like I said, anybody can do it, and it doesn't even have to be flipping stuff. But I think there's so many things, like I talk about all the time with like the amount of tools that are accessible on the internet right now. There's like almost no excuse to not be able to start something up, and that's why I decided I want to start doing what I'm doing, with the podcast and everything. I was like, God, I want to start a podcast. I don't know how to do it. And then I was like, well, everything you have I can utilize YouTube to figure out how to use YouTube. Like you could just YouTube anything, and you can figure it out.
If it wasn't for YouTube, man, I don't think I would have started a business. I don't think I would. Like I looked up on YouTube everything I needed to know: how to start an LLC, how to do a clothing brand, how to buy the tags, how to design. Everything I learned on YouTube. I feel like that's more important to me than school. For me. Like YouTube was my school.
So and I'm a huge advocate of that. Anybody that knows me at all knows that I'm a huge advocate of that. I hated school. But there was a few things I liked, and then it wasn't until like my mid-20s, probably a little bit earlier, early 20s, mid-20s, where I started reading and started actually studying stuff that I liked, and I was like, oh my God, I love learning, I love reading, and I love all these things. It's because I care about it and because I'm passionate about it, and I'd like to do those things as well. So when you do that, man, holy smokes, like some great things can happen.
Man. I relate to you a lot. I was the same way. I mean, I wasn't that big of a fan of school. I think that them making me read a specific book made me not like to read. And I was like, I don't like to read because the books that they were giving me was books I didn't like. So in my mind, I thought I don't like reading. And then after school and after I started getting into what I was getting into, I read every day now. Because it's stuff that I like to read. It's stuff that I enjoy. Now I like learning. So no, I completely agree. I relate with you 100%.
Yeah, it's so crazy how things change like that. I mean, again, we were talking about failure, and as I was growing up, I thought failure was this big, bad, dark, terrible thing that I never wanted to encounter. So it probably held me back from quite a few things in my life that were very relevant to me at the time. And then now, like I'm really I'd say a lot more risk adverse, because I know that I was going to say within reason, but sometimes it's not within reason, because I want to step out of that reason, because I think most people maybe wouldn't be as risk adverse and stay within reason. So I need to push it even harder, and sometimes that's not land it in the best spot, but more times than not, I think for me at least, it works. So I would recommend for anybody to do that as well. So
yeah. No, definitely.
I'm really happy to hear somebody else like yourself to say that the school really wasn't for you, and the learning you thought I think I've even said the same exact thing. You're like, I thought I didn't like to read, and then I started I started reading things that you liked and that you picked, and then you realized how much you absolutely loved it, and now you read every day. And I've said the same thing. So, and I think that goes for anything. Like, just a lot of people ask about how they find their passions, and I think it's really tough. And again, Chris and I were talking about it last conversation about finding your path, but I think one thing he had talked about was like a bowling alley, and you throw the ball down the lane and it kind of bounces, if you're using bumpers, it bounces off it's not a straight path, it bounces down, but you're still making forward progression. So you try one thing, it doesn't work for you, then try another thing, and don't look, if you didn't like the first thing, that's not necessarily a failure. If anything, you learned what you didn't like there, and then it will help more redefine what you want in the future, and you can continue to narrow down your path as you get closer to that which you actually like to do.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great analogy, the whole bowling. When you have your lanes up, you're going to be bouncing back and forth, right? And you're going to do that a couple of times, but once you know what your passion is and you know what you want to do, those lanes come down. And now you're throwing strikes, and now you're going straight down the lane because you know what you're doing, right? Compared to being a kid who doesn't know how to bowl, who's using those lanes. Yeah. So it's the same. I love that analogy. It's a great analogy.
And absolutely, and you're sure as shit not going to get a strike if you don't roll the ball down there, right? So you need to at least pick it up, which can be really tough to do, and you have to, push it forward, or you're not going to make any progress. So I think it's a phenomenal example, and I was really stoked when he brought that up. But so I'm gonna continue to use it, obviously, but it speaks towards a lot of things we've talked about already, man.
Yeah, definitely. Love it, dude.
Yeah, man.
Love the fire.
So, and I do want to know, like, I'm super, like, I was not a good skateboarder. This is, like, almost a personal, like, I want to know thing. But I loved skateboarding as a kid. I was terrible at it. But I still really enjoyed it. Did it with a lot of my friends. Like, is that just something I'm assuming you got into as a kid? And then it just grew into something else, and are you still doing it? I want to know, because as much as, like, I like talking about the entrepreneurial stuff, I mean, I also like talking about this too. But obviously, you can still have time for things that you enjoy to do. Is why I bring up this question.
For sure. No, yeah, definitely. I still skate. I have a half pipe in my backyard that I hit in the mornings.
Yeah,
it's part of my morning.
I think I have seen that.
Morning routine. So how I got into skateboarding, I'm a huge sports fan. More like of a sports. I like to do sports. I don't really like to watch sports as much. Yeah. So I was in football, baseball, basketball. I was doing soccer for a while. I just love sports, and when I got into skateboarding, it was the one sport that I didn't have to rely on anybody else. Like, there was in a team, it was just on me. If I failed, if I messed up, it's just my fault. So I really like the whole. I think skateboarding in itself kind of gave me a mindset as well. Like the whole, you have to try 1,000 times before you land a trick, right? That persistence, that I carry on to business. It's a huge mindset. Failure when it comes to skateboarding. Like, you're not gonna land the trick the first time you do it, and that's just not gonna happen. Like, no way. Even if you're like the best, you're not gonna do it the first time you do it. So skateboarding. I love skateboarding so much. And if it wasn't for skateboarding, I don't think I'll be able to walk as well, because every day I was motivated to skateboard. Like, that was my passion. Yeah. So that's what got me up. I wanted to do it. Yeah. And so I started skateboarding when I was like 12, I believe. I wanted to be a pro skater. Like, that was my life. Like, I was going in that direction. I was skateboarding every day. I was progressing. I got a sponsorship. I was like getting sponsored by the local shops. And then the accident happened and kind of stopped my career, but it put me in a direction where I could still do what I love to do, but make impact. I feel like if I just became a pro skater, it wouldn't impact anybody but me and maybe the people around me with the money. But now I have a brand that sells skateboards, and the brand message itself is helping people stay motivated. I think I can still do what I love to do, but create an impact with it. So yeah, skateboarding is a huge thing in my life. I'm not gonna stop.
No, nor should you. And that's like I said, I wanted to bring it up because you can go pursue all these things that you want. You're an entrepreneur. You're very busy, like we were talking about. You working long hours, of course, but you can still, you make time for what you want, right? You never don't have the time. You're just not making time for it. So you get up and you said that's part of your morning routine. You make time for it. It's something you enjoy and it brings you happiness, just pure happiness. And I have things like that in my life as well. And I would highly recommend anybody to do that as well, and just make time for the stuff that makes you happy. And you can still get after it, and you can still be a hard worker, and you can still work long, hard hours every single day, day in and day out. But you got to make time for it. You got to make time for yourself. And because it's like, I do like the work. I like to work, and I love working long hours on the podcast, and I like my day job, and I like doing everything. But at the same time, like, you have to take time for like doing non-work stuff as well. Like I don't know. And maybe somebody would argue that like, well, I love my job so much, it's super fun, and that's probably true. Like, that's awesome. I would hope you could find that. But the reason I'm saying what I'm saying is because I don't want somebody to be frustrated if they're not like, they don't absolutely love their job, but I'm working long hours and this entrepreneur stuff is, hard or whatever. Well, it's obviously going to be hard. Like, don't get that wrong, but still take time for yourself, take time for yourself to, and it goes along with what you were saying about like being able to digress or like pull back from something, not digress, but like kind of like pull yourself out and then like regain your composure and like realign yourself. So sometimes you need to do that.
Yeah. And for me, like, whenever I have a huge stressful situation, like, and my mind's filled up with that problem, skateboarding is the only thing that kind of frees my mind. Yeah. And I just get happy, right? I don't think of anything, I just do. And so when I'm thinking about a problem or I'm trying to solve something, sometimes 5 minutes on my half pipe is all I need to get back into the rhythm of what I need to do.
Yeah. That's really good that you have that. I know, like, when I go for a run or something, it's just I put my music in or I put a podcast in or something, and I go run and I'm in a different world, and like all my problems I feel like I'm literally running away from my problems. Like, I know it sounds terrible, but like I just focus on like what I need to focus on, and I'm in a different world, and it really helps alleviate stress and pressures in life. So it's cool that you have that as well, and I would hope people have similar things like that for them.
For sure, yeah, definitely. It's important. It's important to be happy. That's the whole point of life, right? To be happy. Why do we do? I
think so. Yeah, you want to be happy, and you want to make people happy. You know, your family. You want to help them. You know, support them to be happy, and we'd like to be successful. At least, you know, I'd like to be successful. However you quantify that. Happiness comes with that as well. And, you know, part of the way I see success personally, and this is everybody's different opinion, is I want to be able to help people. Hence, obviously, I'm doing a podcast where I have people like you on there sharing their opinions and advice. But just go do what you want. But that's the point of this podcast, is go do what you want. There's nothing holding you back. Don't be like, well, I can't do that because I have to pay these bills and that bills. I think you can make it happen. I wouldn't be spending so much time on a podcast where having people on here if I didn't think you could go out and do it. I think you can do it, and you just got to make the time. If you even have family, you have kids or whatever, like, you can make the time. You really can.
Yeah, it comes down to priorities, right? Like the first year for Motive, I didn't lose. I invested $7,000 and I made $2,000, $3,000, and a lot of people would quit. A lot of people wouldn't keep on going. Yeah. But I was so invested into it that I just had to keep on going. Yeah. And now I'm obviously in the positive. But that first year, it was a lot of people were like, "How are you still doing this? Like, you lost like $5,000. Like, what are you doing?" I'm just like, that's just a tool. Like, I just use that to get to where I'm at now.
Yeah, you definitely have to invest in yourself. Yeah, I'm glad you bring that up. You have to invest in yourself. Again, you have to. You are the one that wants it most. If you're going to do something, that nobody's going to push you as hard as you're going to push yourself. We talked about that earlier on here, but you have to be able to invest in yourself. And you knew you were going to work hard. And hell, when you have something, invest it. When you have your own money, invest it. You know, the shirt off your back, you're sure shit going to work hard to make something of it.
Yeah, for sure. No, definitely. And I think that goes along with, college students. You know, like a lot of people, and this is just a situation that happened like not that long ago with my cousin, but his family paid for his college tuition, right? And so he's in college and he's not like that invested to it because it's not his money. Yeah. But if it was his money, I guarantee he'd be hitting the books harder because it's coming out of him. So it's huge. Self-investment, investing into yourself is big. Especially into like personal development, books, seminars, networking, all that good stuff, right? It's a necessity. It's
really curious to me that it comes up, and I love seeing things that come up from my guests like this that are repetitive. But when I was talking to Jen, she was a fitness coach, and she's highly successful. And the reason I think she actually started charging, one of the main reasons she started, charging people for it, because she was giving out tons of advice for free all the time. But more times than not, the people that she was like getting on these programs for free weren't doing anything, because what do they have in for it? They're like, oh, well, this person's giving me free advice. But when she started charging for it, people are like, well, now I have, like we said, some skin in the game, and this is my money, so I better get something out of the program. And now she's seen even phenomenal results out of the people that she's working with. So that's a great point. I'm glad you bring it up.
No, yeah, it's how it is. It's how it is.
Marco, I've thoroughly enjoyed this time talking with you. Thanks so much for being here on the podcast. It's been great, and I know there's been a ton of information that I've learned from you. You're an awesome. You're so inspirational. I'm glad we're friends now, and that I can talk to you, and that we can work that way. And you've been very helpful for me. Things that you've taught me, and hopefully I can reciprocate that as well. Some of the things that I've mentioned as well. So I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today, and I'm very happy to share that with everybody listening and watching.
No, definitely. I love this. It was awesome. Thanks for having me. I look forward to working further down the road and seeing the success that we create with this podcast and getting it out to more people. So I'm excited. I can't wait.
Absolutely. Marco, what's the best way for everybody to find you?
Instagram. So if you search up Marco the Champion, Marco the Champion, it's probably the best way to reach me. All my links are on there, and
perfect.
Go ahead and shoot me a message. Let me know how I can help you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Very exciting. Marco, again, thanks so much, and I'll talk to you soon.
No problem. Talk to you soon.
See ya.